It's March 24th, 2026, and I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Here's what's happening with Tesla today. Let's start with some genuinely good news for anyone who's been watching the Cybertruck since its somewhat polarizing launch. The truck has officially earned the IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus award, which is the highest rating the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety gives out. To get there, it had to post good results in the small overlap front, the updated side impact test, and the moderate overlap front tests. It also needed at least acceptable or better headlights. According to Tesla Raw T, only vehicles that demonstrate outstanding overall crash performance make the cut for this distinction. That's meaningful because the Cybertruck's stainless steel exoskeleton looked so different from everything else on the road that a lot of people questioned how it would actually behave in a real-world crash. The angular design, the ultra-hard exterior panels, the sheer mass of the thing. It all invited skepticism from traditional safety folks. Earning this independent validation should help quiet some of those early doubts. For potential buyers who were sitting on the fence waiting for someone other than Tesla to vouch for the truck's safety, this removes a pretty big question mark. It also quietly reinforces that Tesla's willingness to do things their own way can still deliver results that meet or exceed conventional standards. The engineering choices that looked unconventional on paper are proving themselves in the tests that matter. That's the kind of story that tends to shift perceptions over time, especially among buyers who care more about real-world capability than initial social media reactions. Now, while the Cybertruck is picking up safety wins, Tesla is making some tougher, more pragmatic calls on its older flagship vehicles in certain markets. The company has set a firm cutoff date for new orders of the Model S and Model X in South Korea. This is the first time Tesla has drawn such a hard line on its flagship sedans and SUVs in any single market. According to Drive Tesla Canada, the move looks like an intentional wind down of these models in that region specifically. It raises interesting questions about how Tesla plans to allocate its engineering, service, and production resources between these lower volume halo cars and the higher volume products that drive most of its growth. Customers in South Korea who have been considering an S or an X now have a clear deadline staring at them. Once that window closes, those vehicles will presumably still be supported, but ordering a new one won't be an option anymore in that market. From a business strategy perspective, this kind of pruning makes a lot of sense. Tesla has always been willing to sunset or de-emphasize products once they reach a certain stage of maturity, especially when factory capacity and engineering talent can be shifted toward vehicles that can scale faster and reach more people. The Model S and X still represent the top end of the lineup and they carry important brand prestige, but the reality is that the majority of Tesla's future volume, margins, and impact are going to come from the more accessible parts of the range. This feels like the beginning of a deliberate market-by-market phase-out rather than an overnight global discontinuation. It's a reminder that even successful products eventually need to make room for what's next. Speaking of where Tesla is placing its bets, there's some fresh movement on the commercial side that feels pretty forward-looking. Two Tesla executives recently told Jay Leno that the Semi could eventually drive itself over a charging pad to start a wireless charging session completely automatically. According to Inside EVs, this kind of feature would simplify operations significantly for fleet customers who run tight schedules and can't afford downtime. It shows that Tesla is thinking well beyond just the truck itself and toward an entire ecosystem designed to minimize friction at every charging stop. The new episode of Jay Leno's Garage gave us one of the most detailed looks yet at the redesigned Semi, with Tesla's chief designer and the Semi-program director walking through the latest changes. As volume production gets closer, these upgrades are clearly aimed at making the truck genuinely competitive in real commercial fleets, where reliability and total cost of ownership matter more than anything else. For fleet operators, every minute saved at the charging station translates directly into more productive miles and better utilization of expensive equipment. The conversation around the Semi has evolved quite a bit from the early days when people mostly talked about range. Now the focus is shifting toward operational efficiency, depot charging, predictable routes, and how the truck fits into existing logistics workflows. That practical focus feels like the right one if Tesla wants this vehicle to move from interesting prototype to common sight on highways. That same attention to practical customer needs is showing up in the passenger vehicle lineup as well. A new extended wheelbase Model Y body was recently spotted arriving at Giga, Texas. According to Drive Tesla Canada, this strongly suggests the larger six-seat variant is getting closer to actual North American production. The same vehicle has already launched sales in Thailand, where bigger crossovers tend to be more popular with families. A lot of owners have been asking for more spacious Tesla options, especially those with 3 kids or who regularly carry multiple adults plus gear. The standard model Y is already a strong seller, but the extended version could fill a noticeable gap for people who want something more family-friendly without stepping all the way up to a full-size SUV. Seeing the hardware show up in Texas is one of those tangible signals that North American production might not be far off. It's always interesting to watch how Tesla coordinates these product updates across different continents. They often launch in smaller markets first to test demand and iron out any early issues before committing to the much larger North American supply chain. If the 6-seat Model Y lands here with the right pricing and features, it could open the brand up to an even broader group of buyers who have so far been on the sidelines. While Tesla expands its vehicle offerings, it's also steadily upgrading the infrastructure that makes all these cars more practical to live with day to day. Tesla has opened its first genuine V4 supercharger station on the East Coast, located in Florida. According to Tesla RAT, the site is capable of delivering up to 500 kilowatts when conditions are right. Unlike some of the earlier V4 stalls that only received cosmetic upgrades or longer cables, this one brings the full higher power capability online. That matters because faster charging times directly improve the ownership experience, especially on longer trips or for people who don't have convenient home charging. The higher power should meaningfully reduce the time spent at the charger for compatible vehicles. And it's not just Tesla owners who stand to benefit. The growing number of other brands now using the North American charging standard can also take advantage of these faster speeds where their vehicles support it. Building out the charging network has always been one of Tesla's biggest advantages, and continuing to push the technology forward, especially in high-traffic areas, keeps that lead intact. The Florida location feels symbolic too, given how many snowbirds and vacation travelers move through that part of the country. Every new high-power site makes the whole Tesla ecosystem feel a little more mature. Beyond the charging network, Tesla's truck is also picking up some interesting technical validation. A newly published patent shows the company is still actively developing a range extender solution for the Cybertruck. According to Drive Tesla Canada, this latest approach takes the form of a trailer rather than some of the earlier concepts we saw. That suggests Tesla hasn't given up on addressing range anxiety for owners who regularly tow heavy loads or need to cover long distances without frequent stops. The trailer-style design is quite different from previous ideas and seems focused specifically on towing and extended range use cases. For owners who pull trailers or boats or who live in more remote areas, this kind of option could meaningfully improve real-world usability. It also sends a signal to the rest of the industry about how electric pickup limitations might eventually be handled. Range and efficiency remain big topics in the EV conversation, so it's worth paying attention to any creative solutions that emerge. Even if not every Cybertruck owner will need or want a range extender trailer, having the option available could remove a barrier for the subset of buyers who do. On the sales front, there are some encouraging signs in a market that has been challenging for a while. Tesla's European sales had been declining for over a year straight. According to Inside EVs, February finally broke that streak, with an increase in deliveries. This marks the first sales increase in Europe after 13 consecutive months of declines. The region remains a tough competitive environment where local EV makers and established automakers have been fighting hard for market share. The turnaround suggests that recent product refreshes, pricing adjustments, or improved availability may finally be gaining some traction with buyers there. Of course, 1 month doesn't make a trend, and it will be interesting to see whether March continues the positive direction or if this was just a temporary bump. Europe has always been an important market for Tesla, both for volume and for its reputation as an environmentally conscious region. Any sign that the decline has bottomed out is worth watching closely because sustained growth there would be a meaningful shift in the story. Now, one thing worth noting that sits a bit outside the core Tesla business but still intersects with the broader ecosystem is a regulatory development affecting another company in the group. Namibia's communications regulator has rejected Starlink's application to operate in the country. According to Drive Tesla Canada, this creates a setback for the satellite internet service as it tries to expand across Africa. It's one of the rarer roadblocks the network has encountered in its relatively rapid global rollout. The decision highlights how regulatory environments can differ dramatically from one market to another, sometimes for political, economic, or competitive reasons. While this affects Starlink more directly than Tesla, it does serve as a reminder of the kinds of challenges these companies face when entering new territories. So far, Starlink has managed to overcome most such obstacles through persistence, negotiation, and demonstrating clear value to local populations. Global scaling is rarely perfectly smooth, and these kinds of regulatory hiccups are part of the territory when you're trying to build infrastructure at a planetary scale. Taking a step back from the individual headlines for a moment, it's worth applying a bit of first principles thinking to what will ultimately determine whether the Tesla Semi succeeds in commercial trucking. Most media coverage still tends to fixate on the advertised range, but for fleet operators, the much bigger advantage is likely to be dramatically lower operating costs. The recent Jay Leno's Garage segment actually highlighted this point quite well when you listen between the lines. When you strip away the range anxiety narrative that dominates so much of the conversation, the cost per mile for electricity combined with significantly reduced maintenance requirements is structurally lower than diesel. That advantage holds even before you start factoring in any carbon pricing or environmental regulations that may come into play down the road. The design improvements shown in the latest semi-video seem to target exactly those operational realities rather than chasing every possible use case. Tesla appears to be designing around real-world duty cycles, consistent routes, and opportunities for depot charging where the physics and economics already favor electric powertrains. Rather than trying to replace every single diesel application overnight, the strategy seems to be dominating the routes and fleet operations where the Semi can deliver clear economic wins today. If Tesla can prove those lower running costs at meaningful scale, the decision to adopt the truck becomes a pure business calculation for fleet managers rather than an environmental or image-driven one. That changes the adoption curve completely and could accelerate uptake faster than many people expect. The Boring Company has selected New Orleans, Baltimore, and Dallas as the winners of its Tunnel Vision Challenge. According to Tesla Raw T, these cities will receive free underground loop tunnels as part of the initiative. This marks an interesting new approach to expanding the infrastructure project into additional real-world urban environments. The giveaway strategy is a fresh way to get tunnels designed, built, and tested in actual cities rather than just on private property. It also creates potential future testing grounds that could eventually connect with Tesla's autonomous vehicle ambitions. If robotaxis or other autonomous transport end up making use of dedicated underground routes, the synergies could become quite significant over time. For the cities themselves, they now have an unusual new transportation asset that they'll need to figure out how to integrate and operate effectively. It's an unconventional way to seed infrastructure, but one that fits with the experimental spirit these companies tend to bring to big problems. Before we go, it will be worth keeping an eye on whether that positive sales momentum in Europe carries through into March, or if it was just a one-month reprieve. That's your Tesla news for today. TSLA closed at $381.93, down 2 cents, 0%. If you found this useful, a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify really helps new listeners find the show. You can also find us on X at Tesla Shorts Time. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow. This podcast is curated by Patrick, but generated using AI voice synthesis of my voice using ElevenLabs. The primary reason to do this is I unfortunately don't have the time to be consistent with generating all the content and wanted to focus on creating consistent and regular episodes for all the themes that I enjoy, and I hope others do as well.